Welcome to Sew and Tell, where sewists from fashion, theater, and indie sewing bring their different perspectives to the hottest topics in the sewing community. I'm Kate Zaynard.
I'm Meg Healy.
And I'm Amanda Carestio. Today on the podcast, we're talking about our favorite summer layer, the swimsuit cover-up. We'll talk favorite patterns and fabrics and discuss how to successfully sew sheer fabrics. We'll each share a little something in our SewJo segment, and we'll ask you to share something too. Before we jump in, though, we want to mention that we know there's a lot going on in the world right now, and it's been on all of our minds. We are going to dedicate our Sew and Tell segment to that today, so listen for that a little bit later on in the show. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and jump in.
All right. So in the summer, many of us head to the beach or the swimming pool. Of course, we wear our swimsuits, maybe even me-made ones, but a cover-up is also a staple of beach or pool wear. So let's talk about making our own cover-ups. So first question, of course, do you guys sew cover-ups for yourselves?
I mean, I do. I love sewing cover-ups and I love wearing them so much. They're just so fun. When I finish a swimsuit, I need to have a matching cover-up. Like, I just can't stand it. It doesn't match.
It has to be an outfit.
That's so extra.
I totally can see that being you, Meg.
How about you, Amanda?
You know, I don't think I've ever dedicated time or specific mental space to sewing a cover-up.
No?
Like, I tend to use garments I already have, like easy tank dresses.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about it, and this year, probably my go-to is going to be the robe I made as part of our Sew Your Roll challenge.
Yes.
So,
that's
you know,
lovely, yeah.
Yeah. So it's usually something I usually think about cover-ups as like a garment that is easy to wear over a swimsuit, but it usually starts its life as just a garment that I've made to wear on a regular basis as a standalone garment.
And so that's how it works for me too. My favorite cover-up is cover-ups are my pony dress, which I wear one day and then I use as a kind of loungewear or a cover-up for like the next week until it starts to smell, and then I throw it in the laundry, and then I grab another one and do it again. But yeah, I've never that I can think of. I've never sewn a cover-up specifically, but I definitely have used things that I have sewn as cover-ups. So Amanda kind of already answered this, but I'll ask her to specify. What kind of cover-ups do you prefer?
Well, I mentioned the Suki robe, which is a pattern by Helen's Closet, is going to be my go-to this summer. I just know it. But I was also thinking about the pony tank by Chalk and Notch. That's just such a great summer dress. I also sewed up a quick easy as tie dress, which was a pattern in the April-May issue of Sew News. And it's just a really easy knit dress that you can just slip on. It's not super fitted. So I think those are kind of my favorites. In all things, I like big and boxy and flowy. The same is definitely true for cover-ups.
My rules, I always need to see the swimsuit. I don't like a cover-up that's completely hides the swimsuit, because usually I made it and I want to show it off too. So I like when it's just a bottom. I do a lot of I guess I would repurpose like shorts and stuff like that, and wrap skirts. I remember I've now repurposed my Niagara skirt that I made for the Capsule Studio, not athleisure. That one's just been on my mind. the well-traveled one. I love that as a cover-up because you can still see the top. And I like open things, open robe, like sheer open robes are my favorite. I think I've sewn like 5 of them. And I remember I lent one to my friend. I lent 2 actually. She was going for a trip to Mexico for her for a wedding, and I lent them to her, and it's been like 2 years and I haven't gotten them back. So I'm taking that as a compliment that she just loved. And they were like they're so quick to make. It's like basically, it's just like I fold the fabric in half and like sew 2 seam. I even like use the selvage like fringe edge as the finishing. So, and she says she gets compliments of them all the time. So they're hers now and she loves them and I can just make more.
Sounds perfect. Well, as I mentioned, I am a huge fan of the pony dress from Jock and Notch as a cover up, just because it's got that A shape and it's just easy to just throw on over your bathing suit and everything. But here's a little fun fact about me that I don't think either of you guys know. I actually collect sarongs.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Oh, really?
It started
I love that.
It started when I was 16 years old in Hawaii, and I found somebody was selling these beautiful handmade sarongs. It's cotton and hand dyed with Hawaiian patterns on it and like salt resist, and it's gorgeous. It really is. And also, I discovered it is the most comfortable thing in the world to wear over a bathing suit. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And now I have the largest drawer in my dresser is almost entirely full of sarongs.
Oh my
I have them in all the colors and all the prints.
How many do you think you actually have? Like
how many do I think I actually have? I think somewhere between 30 and 50. I have a lot of sarongs.
Wow.
And it's like, I use them all like at this time of year, I'll get up out of bed and instead of putting on a bathrobe, I'll wrap myself in a sarong. And actually
I love that.
Here's my other secret is I totally got my husband into them too. He doesn't have a large collection. He's only got like 5, but he totally will wear sarongs in the mornings and stuff. He doesn't go around the top. He just goes around the waist, but yeah, so I use sarongs as kind of a go-to cover up, and I think they're great because you can tie them up around your bust if you feel like covering most of your body, or you can tie them around your waist, and you can tie them in a bunch of different ways. And I have never made one because I have somewhere between 30 and 50 that I already own. So why make one? And B, I mean, they're super easy. They're just rectangles of fabric. So it's not like a challenge.
Is it the sarong is like the rectangle with the 2 long straps, right? Like the 2 long ties, right?
No, they're just rectangles.
I was gonna say, if you ever used one as like fabric to cut something else out of.
My sarong?
Or is that just? Oh no, sorry.
No, actually,
like,
though,
what if it was a
that's
print
quite
you really love?
If I didn't, if I don't really like it, I totally could.
Because
it's basically fabric.
Yeah, it is. It's basically fabric. But I mean, my sarongs. I'm like kind of horrified.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's totally logical. It just is not something that's ever occurred to me because a lot of them they're associated with trips I've taken. And so in a lot of cases, they have a lot of nostalgia. And, this one was when I went to the Caribbean with my sister and brother-in-law. And then this one was when I was in Hawaii and in 2003 and was there with all of my family who came through for my parents' wedding anniversary. And so, yeah, there's a lot of that to it. I've never done that, but I could see how that might be a thing.
Yeah, I had that on the mind because I was doing some organizing on the organization on the weekend, and I found some old scarves, and I actually am cutting like a cropped like Roscoe blouse out of a scarf, and so I just kind of had that like just like a square, into fabric that's not actually gartered. So that's what's on the mind.
But it makes perfect sense. It's a rather large piece of, it's a rather large piece of fabric. So yeah, I could see that. But yeah, so anyway, that's my favorite type of cover up. But again, not something I really sew because, yeah. Well, anyway, so
I have a question before we move on. I want to talk about sarongs more.
Okay, let's talk about sarongs more.
Let's do it.
Do yours have fringe edge? Do they have decorative edge? Is it various finishings?
It's various. They either have a finished edge, usually, which is just like a simple double fold, and often they'll use the selvage. They'll be woven in such a way that they don't need a finished edge on the long edges. And then some of them have fringes, and some of them don't. It just depends on the sarong. The fringe is kind of standard. But you can find them without. And usually I'm looking more for a fabric or a pattern that really appeals to me. So at that point, it's just like fringe, no fringe, whatever comes with this sarong that I love.
Do you tie it in the front or the side or the back?
I don't believe I've ever tied it in the back, but I'll tie it on the front or the side depending on how I feel. But actually, I learned from a friend of mine who grew up in Hawaii many years ago. I often wear it Hawaiian style, which is where you wrap it all the way around and then you roll the upper edge a couple of times. And then that kind of holds it in place so it has more of an overlap. And then the knot isn't poking you and stuff. So
that's what I do to my towel. Like when I wrap a towel around myself, that's what I do. Like the roll. Oh, that's I love this sarong life that we've just discovered about Kate. Like 50 sarong. That's
I don't know. I have to go. I might be exaggerating. Amazing. I really do. But like I said, I have been collecting them. I've been collecting them for more than half my life. I have a lot of sarongs.
And I know you're you're a huge fan of like going on cruises. Like, how many would you pack in a cruise trip?
Well, Meg, I think you'll actually appreciate this. I pack usually one for every bathing suit.
Oh, okay, good.
And I coordinate them.
Not
one for every day, but one for every bathing suit.
Well, yeah, you need a
and then I usually have one, and this is it's usually that first one I got. I will often, when I fly, I will keep that in my bag, and if I feel like I need a blanket, I will pull that out.
You're also, a genius.
If you're in a hot location, if you're in the Caribbean or something and you want to like lay in the sun but cover yourself up so you don't burn, like I have very, very fair skin, so I burn very easily. Or if you just want anything to act as a blanket on a hot day, a sarong is a great option. It's super thin. It's just kind of there and it kind of floats on you. And yeah.
Oh,
sarong life.
I'm going to need to see pictures.
I know. I'm just thinking that, like, what if we have Kate like pull like her? Could you like pull like top 10, like go through
top
and like,
10?
or you can't like favorite.
I probably could pull my top 10. If you wanted me to pull my top 1, I would say no. But
now I want you to pull your top 1. No.
It'll be one of the ones in my top 10. Yeah, no, I could pull out some pictures of some of my sarongs, and maybe I'll empty out my sarong drawer and layer them all up and see how many I actually have.
Oh, I know. I always think, I think my favorite cover up that I've made is the one that I made for So New. It was I think it was a couple years ago, but it was that lime green like netted maxi dress, but it was like a really open net. And so
that was
you could
really cool.
really see the swimsuit underneath. No, I love that.
Yeah, did that had like a turtleneck? Did it?
Yeah, it had like a high neckline.
Yeah, like a high neckline and no sleeves, right? It was sleeveless.
No sleeves, no.
I'm trying to mentally picture again. It was really cool. Yeah, I remember that one.
It was.
That was fun.
Had a lot of interesting features.
Yeah, we should pull out a picture of that too.
Yeah, that's like some of the things. It doesn't even have to be a cover-up pattern that you use. It's kind of just depends on the fabric, like whatever. Like I just use like a dress pattern, and if it's a big open like net weave or a mesh or like any sheer fabric, you can make anything truly a cover-up.
It's true, and that was actually going to be my next question: is what kind of fabrics do you like to make your cover-ups out of? So for me, when I have made them, and they're usually things that I wear on an everyday occasion, like I said, I will use usually about a 50-50 cotton poly blend, stable knit, because it's super comfy. It dries out pretty quick. It doesn't get too wrinkly, and generally it's pretty comfy for that kind of thing. But yeah, I think if I were going to like be like full on, I'm making a beach cover up, I probably would go for something more sheer than that.
I definitely like the sheer fabrics.
Yeah.
Swishy, wovens, things like that. I also think if I was going to make a dedicated swim cover up, I would probably do double gauze. Because that's just one of my favorite fabrics in the summertime. And I could see that being really good over, like I think it would soak up the dampness
it's really absorbent.
A little bit.
Totally.
So I
but
feel
then it
like
dries fast too.
that would just be kind of, it'd be kind of dreamy. So that's what I would do.
absolutely.
Yeah, I've never actually used like a knit. I always think of cover-ups as a woven I never thought to use like a
Me
knit
too.
like or a stretch fabric as a cover-up.
I like using, if I want to be really comfortable and I want to be really comfortable at the pool, I like knits because they'll move with you a little bit more than a woven will. And of course that dress is a knit dress. So I'm not sure how it would work in a woven, but
right.
Yeah. It's definitely a little heavy. Like I wouldn't want to be wearing it at the beach for, hours on end, but it is nice to walk, into the pool wearing it and then put it on for the walk out of the pool.
Yeah, my favorite cover-up fabric is like a printed like sheer chiffon. Like that's my favorite cover-up fabric that I can just, it's that I can just sew in like a nice big robe. That's always like my go-to with it's open the front, it's all coordinated and and I like a print too because then you can, I know we're talking about this in the next segment, but you can get away a little bit more without like perfect like French seams with like a printed chiffon. You don't notice the seams quite as much. You can kind of just serge them. That just disguises the inside a little bit, but yeah. Oh, I still have to go through all my. I just want to go and buy a pool right now. Oh, that would be so nice.
Oh, I know. It was so hot yesterday and all I wanted was to go to the pool. This episode is a little bit aspirational because I don't know who can go to pools right now. I'm sure some people can. My cousins went to visit my aunt and uncle in California, and they have a private pool. And so their kids apparently were in it about 10 hours a day, which I can totally appreciate because I would have been too.
Yeah.
All right. So how about patterns for cover-ups? I mean, pony tank, obviously. Or pony dress. What else?
I mean, I definitely love the robe angle. So the Suki robe, as I mentioned, by Helen's Closet is definitely one of my favorites. But I'm feeling like I'm just sitting, we're recording, I'm sitting in my sewing space and looking at all the sheer fabrics that I just never get to. And like they're kind of begging to be a cover-up.
Yeah.
This is the time. But I think that I am lacking in caftans. Like like if there's a moment to be extra, it's definitely the summer. And I don't really have any big, wild caftans to lounge in. So I might need to correct that situation.
Yeah, that sounds like a tragedy.
When I think about cover-ups, it's total tragedy. I think when I think about cover-ups, I definitely envision wraps because that just seems like, easy on and off. And, I do like the idea of like a little bit of swimsuit peeking out from underneath. But I might have to do a little bit more research on some easy breezy caftans to use because I definitely there's fabric just calling out to me right now as it does.
Yeah, caftans don't even really have to be a cover-up. Like that's totally something you can just. It's also like home lounge wear. Like you were mentioning to me that Instagram hashtag that I need to start following. It's called Caftans and Cocktails. That's so my mood right now.
I know,
pure mood right now.
It's a mood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. Now I want both.
Yes. and if you pool.
And a pool. Well, actually, Berta Style has a ton of really good cover-up patterns. I think they even have a whole section on it, but they have tons of like draft-it-yourself robe patterns and caftan patterns. And we actually are running a Berta Style sew-along right now on Sew Daily that it's free to register. And it's a draft-it-yourself caftan pattern, but it's super easy. And I'm obsessed. I made a lime green like sheer one, and then I cropped it into a top because I loved the fit of it so much. It was like the belt even like loops through it, so it's like a draped back, but the front is cinched. It's so I love it.
What's
so
the
nice.
length on that? Because that sounds really lovely.
The length? You mean of the pattern?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
like
don't know that I want like an ankle length.
It's pretty well for me it's definitely ankle length, but it's pretty easy to shorten. Like I just
too.
like I just like held the paper up to my and you can with the measurements you could easily crop it. But
if you're drafting it yourself, I could do it.
I think with
like
a pattern model,
length?
It's like mid calf.
Yes,
but
for me, it's definitely
it's a but it's a the floor length. Yeah,
nice.
I love it.
Nice. I'm gonna have to look into that for sure.
Start wearing it around the house for sure because I have it tucked up in my like swimsuit cover up bin, but I think I'm gonna have to bring it out for homeware too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I've only sewn Berta cover up patterns. I haven't
experimented with anything
robe,
else.
Though, would be a phenomenal cover up pattern. I think that would be so perfect.
Well, and I think what you said earlier too, you can take a lot of things and make them into cover-ups. You just have to choose a good fabric, and you probably don't want anything that's got like a whole bunch of seams, like princess seam cover-ups are probably a little silly, but if it's boxy and loose, just make it out of something sheer or semi-sheer. Grab your double gauze. Oh, I want some double gauze. And you can make cover-ups out of a lot of things.
Do you know what I really want to do? I've always wanted a pair of cover-up culottes. I'm thinking of making a pair of ninis in a totally sheer fabric. I think that would be really cute. And then you could put it over your bathing suit. But it's like sheer pants. I think that is definitely my next go-to cover up make, because for me it's like we need to bike like when we go to like the beach or that because that's our kind of only access of water, we bike there, and so I need like I hate biking and because it gets wrapped up in my like wheels, but I think pants could be very bikeable, and I'm just wearing my swimsuit, so I think that would be really practical for like in the city beach going.
I could totally
kind of body
see that.
of water that's close to. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm totally making that next. Some sheer ninis.
All right. Sheer ninis for Meg. Amanda's is being called to by all of her prints.
I see. I see her keep looking to this. Like, can you like pull? Is it within arm's reach?
Let me show you. And I'll put a picture in the show note.
Yeah, we'll definitely need a picture. And we'll do a quick description too.
I want to see.
It's so not colorful. I've got this white fabric with shocker with black stitching. It was one of those fabrics that I ordered online, and it really came pretty. And it was much more sheer than I thought it was going to be. So, but I love the vibe of it, and so I'm gonna have to look into the. Yeah, I was thinking maybe I'll look at the caftan sew along instructions and think about drafting one.
Yeah,
I gotta use this. It's so pretty.
Yeah, it's super pretty. It looks like it's maybe cotton or linen, something like that.
I think it might be actually a rayon blend, which is why it was kind of ended up
nice
being
and drapey.
Kind of sheer.
Yeah,
that's so pretty.
It's totally drapey. So it's calling to me. It's going officially in the up next pile.
Nice. All right. Well, let's take a little break and then let's come back and talk a little bit about sewing some of those sheer fabrics.
Let's do it.
Sheer fabrics can have a fabulous impact on a garment, especially a cover-up, but the trick with it is that you can see the insides. It's scary. So what sheer fabrics have you had experience in sewing? How about Amanda? Which ones have you had experience with?
Mostly the sheer fabrics just sit on my shelf waiting for me. So I think whether it's like, subconsciously or not, I tend to avoid or delay working with them. Kind of thinking about some things that we've already talked about. And I don't know if double gauze counts as a sheer fabric. Definitely in lighter shades, it can be.
I'd count
but
it.
I have, I have some rayons, and some light colored linens that I've worked with, but nothing really too exotic. How about you, Kate?
Oh, well, I was in the theater. I've worked with all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I've worked with.
I've
worked with. There was this beautiful. I made a slip for somebody out of this beautiful. It was like silk chiffon. I think it was silk chiffon. It was super drapey. It was kind of this butter yellow with these little blue and pink flowers on it, and it was sort of semi-sheer, and it was so beautiful and so delicate, and it frayed so easily. But I loved it. I loved it enough. I went and bought some for myself, actually, and have a shirt made out of it that I don't really wear because it's like a costume shirt. But I'll see if I can find it, and because it's beautiful, looking at the fabric is amazing. I've sewn with plenty of gauze. I'm sure I've sewn with chiffon and organza. I'm sitting here picturing a certain garment, and it's making me twitch. But yeah, I've sewn with a lot of various sheer things over the years. I don't do it much anymore if I can help it because they're a pain. Generally, but the gauze is the exception. I love gauze. How about you, Meg?
Yeah, gauze is great in the way that you don't have to pay attention as much, I feel, to the insides, like if they are like needed French seams, and I think you can get away with not sewing, too particular that you're going to see every seam from the right side as you would kind of like a chiffon or something. But yeah, I've definitely worked with all the shears. I've actually, when I was thinking about this, I've worked with so much like stretch mesh. I think it was my dance costume days, like like that like power mesh type stuff. I've made like full garments and just kind of stretch powered mesh and stuff. And I like that one because you can just get away with just like a surged seam with those, because that's just the difficulty. So which sheer fabrics do you like? I think you guys both said that double gauze is your favorite sheer fabric. Would that be your favorite, or what are your love and hates?
I feel like I love gauze. I love actually I don't actually deal with double gauze very much. I go for like single gauze, and I love the stuff.
Yes.
But I also have had a very soft spot in my heart for a very long time for chiffons. I just love the way they drape, and they're so pretty. And I don't necessarily do anything with them, but I have them and I love them. So those are probably huge soft spot for chiffon.
Yeah, I'd say for me, it's definitely double gauze, but I think that's because, and I think I've sewn it more than the others because it's just a little bit more wearable. Like I really don't have a big, spot in my wardrobe for shears. I don't really have, special occasions happening very regularly that, things like that on the more formal side. So I think for me, it's still kind of about the wearability. So double gauze for me.
How about you, Meg?
Well, I actually felt like back in love with organza. Is like it's being sheer and structured. It's not as shift. Like I hate like a really delicate. Like I love it, but I hate working with it. Like a really sheer a silk chiffon type thing. It's just so shifty. You cut it out and you pick it, and you're like, why is this seam like 1 inch longer. They were together when I cut it. Like,
and yes, you notice I said I don't actually work with chiffon very much, and that's why I just have it around and love it without actually using it.
Oh yeah,
but organza.
I just heard some. Yeah, I made actually a jacket with it. No, it's for an upcoming issue of So News, and it turned out so good. And I just love how it was crisp, and it actually pressed a lot better than I thought it would, and it was really nice to work with. And it was fun. It was really nice.
It did seem to have quite a bit of structure to it. Is there anything? Was it like a different kind of blend, or what was about it? Do you think gave it the structure?
I don't know. I need to go. It was from Mood. I'm going to go back and look at the listing too. Of exactly
it was silk, though, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was a silk,
which is probably why it pressed so well.
Yeah, that's true. It was a pumpkin spice silk organza.
I tell you, Meg, I cannot wait to see that in person. Cannot wait.
Me too.
I've seen the pictures, and that's all.
Yeah, but with that, I needed to brush up on my French seams, which every single seam I sewed in that jacket was a French seam. And I hadn't done that, I think, since school. Have you guys, what's your French seam experience? Have you sewn a garment lately with French seams?
No, I don't know. I'm forever looking for shortcuts and tend to take the fast route through sewing. But I am working on a pants hack for the summer with this there'll be a slit in the pants. And so I think they'll open pretty wide. And I was thinking it would be nice to do something a little bit nicer with the seams because they will likely show. But I was trying to figure out, and I did look up a couple of tutorials on this, but how to do an inseam pocket with French seams.
Oh.
Because I was trying to wrap my head around it, and I don't know. I might do it. I might not. There's definitely tricks for it, and you can do it. But
it sounds like a puzzle.
I don't know. I know. And I think part of it is my brain just sometimes I can envision how it's going to work and sometimes I just can't. And I think French seams are one of those things that just kind of boggle my mind. But I feel like people in my Instagram feed are just kind of French seam fanatics,
I know.
Even for, basic garments. I mean, I think that, a real benefit is, if the fabric you're working with frays a bunch. I know people who do it because they don't have a serger.
Yeah.
So they French seam. But I also think that it, probably contributes to the longevity of projects, especially, again, if you're working with a more delicate fabric. So I love the idea of them, but it's not something that I particularly enjoy doing.
I will use French seams when I am working with either a sheer or a very light and delicate fabric. It's kind of what you do, especially if I don't feel like it's going to make a lot of sense to serge it, because I always serge the edges of everything before I sew anything. You guys know that. If it doesn't make sense to do that, I will go ahead and do a French seam. It's been a while since I've needed to do one, but it was probably a couple of years ago. I made something out of gauze and I did French seams on it. And of course, when I was working with that beautiful silk chiffon I was talking about, I always did French seams with that. And I didn't do a lot of sewing French seams when I was in the theater. It usually wasn't necessary. I mean, if it was, if I was sewing something sheer, I would. But most of the time, we just serge the edges of everything. That's where I developed that habit. So not the number one thing in my life, but I certainly have plenty of experience with it. And I don't mind it when it's necessary. I do it, and it is what it is. Yeah.
I think going into my project, I was a lot more I was delayed in starting it. Then I was doing it, and it actually wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah, I mean, you're sewing every seam twice, but
yeah, I know. Putting that sleeve in twice. I mean, I guess it was 4 sleeve seams for 2 end result sleeves, which was fun because I hate doing sleeves, but it was fun.
Oh, I have not done sleeves with French seams. That sounds really hard.
Yeah. yeah, it was satisfying though after they were done.
I'm trying to remember. I think I mostly do raglan sleeves with French seams. Those are a little easier.
Oh, that seems smart.
I don't think I do it on purpose. I think it just works out that way.
Yeah, subconsciously you just don't cut like set-in sleeves and sheer fabrics. Just you're just
I just choose my patterns smart.
Yeah, choose your pattern smart. Yeah, but you pointed out something to me, Kate, what I didn't realize, because you edit all of my stuff and you see like, because I take photos of every step, and you were saying how when I did my French seam, I do the same seam allowance twice. And you said, oh, I usually like would think, or you've done it like where you do a smaller seam allowance the first time. But I was thinking like when I was doing that, I could, just for me, I was just being really picky because I could see like within even the sheer organza, that little stop in it, that little, inside the French seam. So then I just doubled it, and I was like, right, like just like a hair to that second seam allowance. So I just think it's interesting.
When I tried to do that, I would end up getting the edge of the first seam sticking out of the first edge. So I always do, it's like if you've got a like 5/8 inch seam allowance, you do a 1/4 inch for the first one and then 3/8 for the next one. So you have that little extra space. That's what I always learned. But, hey, if you can pull it off, and it sounds like you can, then, more power to you. Keep that little bit from showing through.
Yeah, I know you get the garment and you're like, why are all these things poking out? No, I made sure that they did. Oh, yeah. So, but there are some tricks that you can do if you don't like to do French seams. So one time I was making a chiffon garment, and instead of like, there's one thing for like a serge seam, but I did like a rolled hem, but even for like all the inner seams too, right? And so it was a better finish on the inside, just like a tiny seam allowance, but it was finished without actually having to do that much extra work, and especially to hem an edge too. I love a rolled hem. On a serger is perfect for sheer fabrics.
That's my go-to if I'm hemming something sheer.
I haven't really experimented too much with the rolled hem. Maybe I'll have to do that if I make a caftan.
Yeah,
yes,
totally.
Definitely. Sometimes you run into the problem where it's catching so few threads of the fabric that it starts to pull them away. That's the only issue I have. But I think if you're willing to trim off a little bit of your edge, then that usually takes care of that. It usually gets in there sturdy enough.
Yeah, and I just loosen my tensions a little bit if it's doing that. If it's like a little bit looser, that helps. But yeah, I always leave an extra inch because I like to cut off a lot when I'm doing a rolled hem, for sure. But yeah, I love using them for the inner seams as well.
Nice.
And then
that's a great tip.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And then when I'm also with, I do that more often when it's like not as a graphic print, or you can see through it. But if you have like a really printed chiffon, I find you can definitely get away with not using French seams. I find because the print is distracting.
Yeah, the print kind of covers up the seam allowance.
Yeah. So
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I made like the top version of the caftan, and then the long version. The top version was really heavily printed, and it was still sheer, but you can't really see a lot of the stuff. And I added pom-poms to it. Always, like, if you're afraid to like hem the edge, add a trim, add a fringe, that's also a really good tip if you don't want to do like I can't get my single stitch like that. What's that foot called where it does like the double what's that one called?
The blind hem?
Yeah, the one that folds it in twice as you sew it on your.
Oh, the rolled hem.
The rolled hem, yes, yeah. I can never get that foot to work.
Oh, yeah, they're kind of challenging. You have to focus on them pretty hard. But I love a sheer cover up with pom poms on it. I mean, that's like one of my favorite visuals in the world. I'm just like, yes, please, more.
Bring on the pom-poms.
Bring on the pom-poms.
Bring on the pom-poms. And then another, lastly, just some like pattern. I know I had to do this when I was doing my, just like some pattern considerations. Sometimes you need to think of the construction. If you are making less of a cover-up sort of, but more of, because you can use a lot of organza for like evening wear, like boleros and lots of sort of stuff. But I had to eliminate the facing in my jacket because you can see that. I mean, sometimes that's fine if you want that aesthetic, but I had to eliminate the facing because then I'd also have to like, and then you could see the seam. And so I used bias, and I did like I cut bias out of the organza and then finished the edge that way so I don't see facing lines on the inside, and just like things like that you have to think about because everything from the inside's gonna be seen outside, so for sure.
Yeah,
things like
I
that.
think you did a really great job of finding ways to deal with that when you were putting together that jacket. I think that I highly recommend that when we get towards a later part of the year, when the, let's see, what is it, October, November issue comes out, I recommend people taking a look at that article because I think Meg did a really great job. Like it's got pockets, it's got belt loops, it's got all of these little details, and she really put it together beautifully so it doesn't look too overstitched or anything.
So. Yeah, I need the ways
maybe,
that the pattern.
Maybe we can share a sneak peek or something like that.
Ooh, I do have some photos that I like a little. Yes, I have the perfect sneak peek photo that I'll put in the show notes. 100%. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yay!
But yeah, it's really cool, and I think our readers are going to love it, and if you're one of our readers, I think you'll love it.
Yeah, but definitely the sheer lends itself to, I think, this time of the year. I don't sew with shears quite often in the fall and the winter for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was fun talking about
so many good
cover-ups and
tips.
sheer fabrics. Yeah.
I want to go dig through my chiffons and see what I've got and see if I
and your sarongs.
And my sarong. Yes, I need to go count my sarongs so I can tell you exactly how many I have.
Yeah, you do.
The problem is I'm pretty sure there are some that are like in my laundry pile too. So I'm going to have to do extra looking to find everything.
Well, all right, you guys, I'm super inspired. Let's go ahead and jump into our SewJo segment where we talk about our sewing mojo and what is currently keeping us excited about sewing. Meg, why don't you go first?
Well, actually, I have a pair of the Pietra pants from Closet Case Patterns cut out. I actually sewed up a muslin fitting of them, and they turned out so well. I finished like the hem and everything, and I wore them like on Saturday, like my fitting, because they just look like I wore them out like.
Nice.
But I'm excited to. I think
what kind of fabric did you use?
I cut them in this like blue denim linen, but for like my muslin fitting, I just had like my muslin fabric for my
just your muslin
my sample.
Cool,
yeah,
nice.
And then it was just to check the fitting, but it fits so well, and I just loved them so much. Like it didn't even look that as a fitting. So I finished the hem and I finished the insides, and so now I'm gonna have two. But that pattern is amazing. I have really not dived into. I'm always been sewing Berta pant patterns, but that one is going to be a go-to. I loved it. So going to be sewing more. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you, Amanda? What's your SewJo?
You know, I am working my way through a little summer capsule that I put together. I guess I was really inspired after our last episode, and I think I've mentioned this before. I have a lot of summer basics. Summer clothes are definitely my favorite to sew, and I sew them. I probably sew for that season more than anything. So I don't have a ton of needs, but I do have some fabrics that I'd like to use for the summer, some graphic prints and some things from my collection that I'm kind of interested in sewing up. And once I kind of put them all together and looked at the fabrics, I was like, oh, these kind of go together. This is an accidental capsule, so that's what I'm working on.
Accidental
and I'm
capsule.
kind of excited about it. Yep, it happens.
Awesome.
Capsule happens.
Capsule happens.
What about you, Kate?
Well, I actually did some sewing over the weekend. I kind of on an impulse made a willow tank out of a leftover piece of galaxy print that I have. So I'm looking for it's a little chillier today than it has been. So I'm looking forward to wearing that in a few days when it warms up. But that mostly happened because I am on a quest. I know I cut bias strips. To go with my Delphi dress because the fabric I have is way too stretchy to use it for the straps. I need to have something more sturdy, and I cannot find them because I cut them in like November or something. I probably cut them in October, September, something like that. It's been a really long time and I cannot find them. And I'm so mad because the color was like perfectly matched. It was a print. It was like a quilting cotton print, but the color was like perfectly matched. And I'm just so mad. But I think I found an okay alternate match, probably from the same collection actually, yesterday. So I'm going to take a look at that with my fabric pieces and take 2 deep breaths, let it go, and cut myself some more bias strips and start on my Delphi dress once I get that done. So that is what is giving me my SewJo right now.
I love it. I have definitely, that's what happens when you like start a project and then you take a big break, like, so 9 months.
Yeah.
I'm so mad. Kate, why couldn't you have just put them with the dress pieces that you had already cut out? Why did you leave them somewhere else? Past Kate.
You're going to find them like a year down the road, somewhere totally random. You are going to find them someday and in a random place at a random time.
I actually expect to find them as soon as I finish the dress. Like literally later that day.
Or that, yes.
Yeah. Probably so.
That's how it works.
Well, let's go ahead and let's jump into Sew and Tell. As we mentioned at the start of the show, we're going to do things a little bit differently this time. We are going to take a pause from our standard Sew and Tell format to address the conversation taking place in the nation and within the sewing community regarding racism and racial injustice. If you haven't taken a moment to dip into the conversation, we encourage you to. It's a deep and moving and important conversation that's happening right now. Mm-hmm. As 3 white women, we also urge you to seek out and listen to voices from within the Black sewing community. So we thought we'd offer a few options for that to just get started, kind of introducing yourself. And if you're looking to diversify the voices that you're hearing from. So if you're looking for an additional podcast to add to your list, consider Stitch Please by Lisa at Black Women Stitch on Instagram. You should also watch the Black Makers Matter space to follow a coalition of makers working for change in the craft industry. I'm really excited to see what this group does. And consider following one of the Black designers or contributors or makers that we featured in our magazines. Just as a starting place if you're interested in kind of jumping into that conversation. And I think that it's a really good thing for us to all be thinking about the kind of craft space we want, the kind of craft community that we want. And I think that, a diverse one that is built on genuine connection is definitely part of what I am hoping for our future as humans and also our future within the sewing community. So we are going to take a break from our community question this week to just kind of give space for that listening and that research and this really important conversation that's happening. So
I don't know about anyone else, but I would like it if you have any resources to share for our community, voices to listen to, people to follow, anything like that. Please do feel free to drop them in our Instagram as you would answers to our question.
Absolutely. And I think that it's really important since we are members of the craft industry, as well as makers and passionate sewists ourselves that we make ourselves really open to feedback. And I think that's that's an extended invitation to pass that along to us. I think it's something that if we're gonna put in the work in this space, then feedback is essential. So it's really just a starting place. Thank you so much to our community, and thanks so much for coming together and chatting about sewing today, you guys.
Of course. But yeah, everybody stay safe out there, okay? And happy stitching.
Happy stitching, yes.
For links to everything we talked about in this episode, go to our show notes page at sewdaily.com/sewandtell. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at sewandtellpodcast@goldenpeakmedia.com or visit us on Instagram at sewandtellpod. Answer the Sew and Tell question, tell us your SewJo, or just leave us some feedback. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe on your podcasting platform of choice. And please leave us a review, ideally a good one, because that helps listeners like you find our podcast. And tell your sewing friends about us too. Thanks for listening, and happy stitching. Sew and Tell is produced by Meg Healy, Amanda Carestio, and me, Kate Zaynard. Our consulting producer is Ron Doyle, and our executive producer is Jared Mayer.